Okay, so I'm sort of here to position this a little bit so you understand the rest of the evening and the like. And many of you may have heard this. It's so interesting. I know you would not have forgotten it, but just in case, I'm in charge of long-range planning, which includes long-range capital planning. And when you think capital, think assets. Think something physical you can touch, something that lasts a certain period of time. So a couple years ago, we went and looked at this and did a detailed inventory of all our capital assets, right? So every mower, every blower, every oven, every kegerator, every table, whatever it is, right? Roofs, everything. Then we went through and I tried to create an estimate of how long that particular asset lasts and how much it'll cost when we have to replace it. And I did that for every single line item through 2040, okay? Now, they're estimates, but they should be pretty solid. So now I have this monster spreadsheet, this super detailed thing that I'm trying to share with you. And so part of that is consolidating and summarizing it all on one page. So that's what you see on the right side of the chart. Now there's two sections here, okay? The top section is repair and replace. Okay, that's all the stuff we have that'll eventually have to be replaced. Okay, and it is broken up in the first set of columns is the next 3 years, so 2024, 25, 26, and then we've got 2027 through 2040. Okay, the bottom section here are new capital investments, just so you understand how the chart breaks down. Now, one of the complications with all this, there are a lot of things we'd like to do now, we just don't have the money for it, right? So we push them back, we defer them to some point, and try and balance out where we think we have risk as far as replacement and where we think we have funding. So if you look at the first 3 years, we've got something that's coming up to about $2.5 million. There's a number of things for the pool, but some of the pool equipment, resurfacing the decks, things like that, have been pushed out a little further than we'd like, but it is what it is. Pickleball courts, you see. Clay court regrading, depending on your estimates, probably should have been done already. That's getting pushed out past 2026. Same thing for golfers, cart paths, early 2030s. Boom, right? But you can see it's $1.5 million too for the cart paths. So, there's a balancing act between where you spend the money. We've got stuff for the house, the interior. You can see some of these line items, like here on house, $423,000 over the next 3 years. Well, that's 62 different line items. I just lumped them all together. That's why that number's kind of big. But a bunch of little stuff. A little bit more, as you can see on the course, the equipment on the course, the tractors, the backhoes, all that stuff, lasts only so long. And then, of course, the golf shop. Golf mats. The maintenance facility is the maintenance facility down near the dog pound. Horrible shape. Investment required. And then you can see on 2027 through 40, those 14 years. Under the new capital, we've got stuff for racket, especially things like lighting, stuff like that, because lighting's going to help us increase the capacity of the courts and the like. We want to hire an architect designer for our new kitchen. And of course, invest in the new kitchen. So we got $200,000 estimated there. And then the architect for the course, who will, develop a master plan. It's 30, 40, 50,000, but we're going to want different versions of that master plan to correlate with choices on amount of funding. So at the end, those 3 years, the next 3 years, we have about $2.8 million estimated for capital needs. Right? Just you'll want to remember 2.8 million because that's how Dan will start. And the interesting part about that, when you look over the various time periods, it's about $935,000 of capital we need annually. That's an average. So $935,000 a year needs to go towards capital. The only thing that's not included in here is the golf course. We're going to do a master plan. We're going to do a plan, but executing on that plan, no idea what that means or costs, so we do not have any estimates for that in here. Does that make sense?
So Craig, just so that I hear you correctly, you're estimating that we spend roughly 900,000 plus annualized on capital needs.
Yep.
For the next 30 years, roughly, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Annualized, that's what we should put
At
away.
least the next 20 years.
Okay.
Yep. Okay?
Who gave you the estimate on the kitchen? I'm a kitchen designer. I do not do commercial kitchens. I'm not out for work. $200,000 to fix that kitchen.
Way low. Okay. Well, we've got estimates
It
from
costs nearly that.
from management and the house committee together, so. Okay, so the number may be a little low. The golf course architect may be a little high, so we'll have to find it. But anyway, that's the basis. That's the work. There's real numbers behind this, so none of this is made up. It's excruciating detail behind it. But you'll just want to remember that over the next 3 years, we're looking at for $2.8 million of capital.
I have a question. The clay court regrading, is that resurfacing?
No.
Just, okay, that's.
Full
okay.
regrade.
Full regrading, okay.
Supposed to do it every 10 to 12
You do
years.
resurface them every year,
Every
and
year,
it's
okay.
getting ready to
Make
be
sure
done in
that wouldn't
August.
be-
No, we've got that covered,
Okay.
but the full rip them out and do them again.
Okay.
Greg,
Yep.
we need a microphone if somebody in the audience asks a question so that everybody understands
Okay.
the question, please.
Good point. So she asked if the court regrading was full regrading or just resurfacing. It's full regrading. Rip them out, do them again.
Okay.
Yep.
And you're gonna post this online.
Yeah, all this
Yeah,
will,
this will
all
all
this
be-
will get posted in the next 2 days.
The depreciation expense, or depreciation on our assets, is that also about $900,000 a year as well?
The depreciation would be part of that part of that 935 would be
No,
depreciated.
Today, is that also, just in our current balance sheet, is how much are we recognizing depreciation on the current assets?
I don't know. I don't know.
Dan,
What
do you
was
know?
the question?
How much depreciation are we writing down right now? And I don't know. Okay?
Don't know that off the top of my head, but I can look it up before we're done.
Okay, so with that, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Thank you.
Want me to work quicker? All right, for those of you I don't know, my name's Dan Coretta. I'm on the board and head up finance. I appreciate all of you coming tonight. Can you hear okay, or do you need?
Probably use a mic.
My voice doesn't project as well as Craig's.
Push the button on the bottom. Just hold it in.
Is it well? Now it projects very well. I would say thank you for coming. Want to run through the board's recommendation on how we fund the capital that Craig just went through. Craig summarized in about 7 minutes what I think's been hundreds of hours of work that he has done that has really put us in a great position where every single asset that the club owns is documented with a anticipated need of a replacement date and a replacement cost. So we're going to focus, as Craig said, on the 3-year. I think John, you're working for me on the next 3 years, which is that 2.8 number. As soon as we can get the slide moving, and there it is. So our estimated capital needs over the next 3 years, the 2.8 million number, as Craig mentioned, that excludes the golf course master plan execution. So what I'm doing here is we want to come up with a placeholder so that we could come up with a number that we want to attempt to fund. the number I'm using is $600,000. And let me say a few things about that. First, that certainly is not the full execution. We don't think that's the full execution of what the master plan will be. We don't have the master plan yet. That'll be coming. That'll be a multi-year plan. Could be a lot of costs that membership will need to weigh in on and decide, do we want to do that? In my mind, what this number should represent is, what do we think we need to spend in the near term to get our golf course back to a level where we are extremely happy, proud to bring guests here, etc. Some of that work's underway today. So that's what that 600,000 represents. Again, in no way is that what we think is the total investment that we need over the next several years for the golf course, but I think is a good number for the sort of drainage activity we're doing and reshaping and some of the other work you're going to hear a lot more about at 6:30. So that brings us to a total of $3.4 million that we believe capital need over the next 3 years, with ongoing after that, Doug, as you had pointed out, a little over $900,000 a year after that point. The good news is we are in a position now with almost 800 members that we generate cash from operations that we move to capital. And we move a minimum of $54,000-ish a month from operations to capital. As we look at the next 3 years, this is our projection of how much will be available from operations to fund capital. And by the way, I wanted to say, please, I'd like this to be, don't hold your questions to the end. So, and Doug's going to jump right on that.
So, when I was on the board, I knew there was many years where capital was funding the operations because operations wasn't cash positive.
That's right.
Where does that balance stand and how are we paying that back?
Yeah, great question. It was back, certainly when Doug and I were on the board last time, capital that we had was funding ops back in 16. We had negative cash flow. Where are we now is really the question. We are around, this year, if we hit budget, we would have had about rounding 750,000 excess cash to go to capital. We're on a path for like 700,000 to 800,000. Now, I said if we hit budget, this year's been particularly difficult to date. Golf activity, we're short probably $50,000 so far just through the first 4 months. We had 50,000 of a window problem. So we are short on meeting budget this year. But certainly as we look at next year, let me first get to 2025. You see 900,000 annually. What that assumes is we've added about 30 new members from where we are today, and we will be generating a positive cash flow of about 900,000 that can move to capital. Next year, I've lowered that number to 400,000 because this year we've had to hit our line of credit because of the budget shortfalls. We'll want to pay that off at the end of the year. So I'm projecting that we're only going to have about 400,000 next year available for capital. That might be conservative, but I'd rather be conservative.
So Dan, what's the debt? What hole do we have to, how much does capital or operations still owe capital? What's that balance? Because it had to be paid back.
It's been deferred. All the capital that we didn't use the money for, it all keeps getting deferred. Like Craig said, it's been pushed into future years in order to.
Right, but there's two funds and you can't separate them. There's two buckets. Capital had been funding operations for many years, so there's probably, if I had to guess, a couple $1 million that operations owes back to capital. And my question is, what's that balance stand at right now?
I don't know that.
We should know that, because that needs to get paid back, right? Needs to be thought about in this plan.
Well,
Unless you're not planning on paying it back. I mean, that would take a membership vote. Right? Okay.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't think of it in terms of operations owing capital. I mean,
It does, though. There's two different buckets. Just
yeah, I mean, yeah.
research if you would and let us know.
Yeah. I mean, this year's capital, for instance, that has moved to capital has been spent from a combination of
It's the past years that's the question.
Yeah.
So let me just, so we have a capital accounting process, but none of the capital was ever invested into a separate capital fund that's identified in the bylaws.
Which is a problem.
But none of that money was ever moved into the
It's
capital
supposed to be
fund.
two separate budgets, two separate funds for the
There
bylaws.
was no money, so no money went in.
Right. So I think that needs to get rectified.
Well, I'll be happy to look at that. I mean, we're moving any operations dollars in excess of sort of a minimum that we want to keep as a cushion in ops is moving to capital. So, I mean, in essence, it will be paid back at the rate it can be paid back. Now, what that shortfall was in prior years, in the last 3 or 4 years, I'm not sure, but I can look at it. Yes, sir?
For the members, I got a two-part question. So for the 800 members that we have currently, what is the average income per member? Do we know that?
Our total revenue is about $6 million. So if somebody could quickly calculate 6 million divided by 800, that would be the average.
So when we say in 2025 to whatever, we're going to have 30 new members, we're going to have 30, do we account for members lost in the forecast?
That would be a net number. That would be a net number. We've been growing at a rate faster than that, but that would be that if we are able to grow at a net 30, that would move us from the 750 to 900,000 annually. Doug?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with you using 30. I would much prefer a conservative approach and have a net zero and base it on that as opposed to 30 members. And the next question what I would have is if you're having 30 new members, what's that based on? Is that full membership? Is it 50% full membership, 50% sports and social?
Yeah, it would be FME, which is a term or acronym for full member equivalent.
Yeah.
So
So it's an equal number of social, sports, and full, but basically.
I think,
give or take.
if, not to question or even, not to provide a negative wet blanket at any means, but if I was doing it, it would be at a net zero gain.
okay, and what that would do is basically lower this number
That's correct.
by 100 to
So
150,000.
I'd feel a lot better about that, managing the budget
Sure.
with a net zero gain and understanding what the future looks like.
Yeah. Fair enough. And let me show them what that would translate to. So add these numbers. Obviously 4, 9, and 9 would get us 2.2 million available. We said we needed 3.4, so the shortfall would be 1.2 million. If indeed we changed to, let's say, the 800,000 number, which would be, this would be 1.4 million shortfall that we'd be trying to solve for.
If you did not increase the membership.
If we didn't increase, that's right.
And you know, the reason why I say that is we can't handle what we have now. And so if you don't handle the membership you have now, you're going to have discontent and you're going to create a negative impact on the club. So I would not advise, if it was me running it and I had the magic wand, I would not advise increasing the membership, and I would put a hold on it until we had our act together all the way around, whether it's a new kitchen. We have a brand new bar facility, brand new restaurant facility here. which cannot manage the current number of members we have today. So why increase something and give I hear this all the time, give the club member a great experience. You cannot give the club member a great experience by increasing the numbers and decreasing the services, which is what's happening right now.
That's a great point, and that's, we're certainly not, compared to years ago, which was a full out, we need to grow membership, we need to find 100, 200, 300 more people, which we successfully did. That's certainly not the mode we're in now. One thing, we can't totally shut off new membership because we don't know what attrition level is going to be, and we can't go negative. But your point's a really good one, and I think the capacity issues that you're referencing, for instance, one in the kitchen, that's why that project is so critical. And it certainly, this certainly does not represent, hey, we are going full bore to really grow this membership. I mean, capacity in the bylaws is 900. We can't handle 900 currently. We're at 770 or 780. And I think, there'll be natural either growth a little above that, attrition from that, just based upon those levels.
So I think the big takeaway here is if you cap the membership today, assuming you have some attrition and you added some, you're roughly a shortfall of 200,000 off the 1.2. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I'd say that if we sort of somehow just stayed status quo membership count, that 1.2 million would look more like 1.4 million-ish. And again, I mean, this is an incredible amount of work that came up with 3/4. Those are estimates. Some are low, some are high. Some of the replacement needs may not happen when we're planning. We might get an extra year or 2 or 3 out of a refrigerator or a dishwasher, etc. So the key is, in my mind, we're solving for a shortfall. How are we going to raise capital? And we may find that we're 200,000 short from what we need, or 400,000 short, and we need a plan B.
Sure.
So as we said, okay, 1.4 million, pretty significant need. What are our options? As with most things, there's always a do-nothing option, right? Which is, you know what? Let's just spend money as it is available from operations. So next year that could be 400,000, then it could be 800,000 or whatever the following year, etc. We quickly dismissed that for a couple reasons, and Doug, thank you, you've actually mentioned several of them. One is we really can't handle in a way that we would like the current level of membership. So there are capacity issues that need to be addressed. There's a long list of repair and replace needs that have been on the docket for several years that we have not addressed and we need to. So the one thing I'm confident in is if we did nothing, we're going to begin to see attrition levels at a much higher rate than we really can afford to see. So I really don't think there's an option of just saying, hey, we're not going to raise capital, we're going to spend the cash we get from ops. I think that would be woefully short from what we want to do.
Right.
Second option, of course, is a member assessment. Club has not had an assessment for, somebody could fill in the blank for me. I know it's been since I've been around, so it's been a long time since an assessment. A lot of discussion on this, and the belief is, quite frankly, this would be a terrible time to do a member assessment. We've obviously just had to close the course for 4 months last year for very good reason, close the barn banquet area for 3 months to redo that. Need to make other improvements in the golf course, etc. Strongly believe that the time for an assessment is when satisfaction levels are very high. People are happy with the club. In many cases where it's a very specific project. that people are anxious to fund, et cetera. So at this time, we ruled out a member assessment being a viable option for those reasons. Third is bank loan, and there's really two issues with that right now. One is, quite frankly, the cost. You know, like any business thinking of investing, you know, at 7, 8, 9%, it gets quite costly. So, and secondly, you know, we've just taken out a little under $1 million irrigation loan. You know, our current bank, I think we probably have a mortgage of $1.3 million, $1 million irrigation line of credit. I don't think they're knocking down our door for us to get additional exposure from us. So, but the main reason there again is the cost. So then we looked at selling lifetime memberships, and then a new idea of 10-year membership that I'd like to dive into.
Before you leave that chart,
Right.
just so everyone gets it, number 4 is predicated on the bylaws the new bylaw changes being approved.
Right.
If the new bylaw changes are not approved, then option 4 disappears.
Correct.
And we're left with those other 3 options.
What were the bylaws? What were the bylaws you speaking of?
Well,
The
Dan's gonna get to it. I mean, it's the bylaws to sell the lifetime membership change. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying if 4 falls off, then
It's really for permission to sell up to 10 new lifetime memberships and 10 10-year memberships is the bylaw change that we need approved to then begin to offer those. So, we are looking for approval in the bylaw to sell 10 lifetime memberships at a minimum $100,000. For those of you not familiar with the lifetime membership from 2016, this would work the same way. The lifetime member for their life is exempt from monthly club dues, card fees for family, food minimums, annual driving range fees, annual bag storage fees, annual handicap fees. Done paying all those. The lifetime membership can be transferred once in the first 15 years with the applicable fee. There's in the bylaw, recommended bylaw, there's the listing of the transfer fees. They can be transferred once in the first 15 years with the applicable transfer fee paid to the club. Second, I'd like to spend a second on this transfer fee concept. I think the transfer fee is an important component of the lifetime membership because you're obviously asking someone to pay a lot of money for a lifetime membership. They might believe that they're going to be here for the next 40 years, and they could be transferred if they're still working in 5 years somewhere. That's a big risk. So we want to have the ability to transfer that membership one time to another member, based upon how long the person held it in those 15 years would dictate the transfer fee. So if something happened in year 2, I think the transfer fee is $3,000, I think, to the club. If you make it all the way to year 14, it's a $50,000 transfer fee back to the club. Yes, sir.
How many lifetime members do we have right now?
We sold 20 in 2016.
We still have 20?
We still have 20. There was 19 of the originals still have a lifetime membership. 1 was transferred. Side note, was transferred for $20,000 above what the person paid for it.
And they were at the $100,000?
Those were 60,000.
I'll do that one.
All you need is a time machine to get back to 2016. A quick, thanks for bringing it up though, because a quick comment on that. Many of you obviously very I've been around here a long time, but for those that weren't, in 2016, Doug had pointed out we had negative cash flow for a few years. So basically, going through capital, membership was stagnant. There was a lot of rumors, a lot of questions on club survival. We were not creditworthy. No bank was going to lend us money. We had immediate need of $1.2 million identified for capital. So we sold 20 lifetimes at $60,000. To me, that was a very risk-adjusted price. The people that wrote the $60,000 check could not have been entirely positive they were going to get to have their lifetime here at the club. So, that risk adjustment in my mind, probably the value of that back then was probably at least 75 to 80. You factor in dues increase alone since then, you quickly get to a much higher number.
I was making a joke.
No, but I wanted, a lot of people know that former price. Luckily, those folks all did it. It was a great deal for them, and it worked out very well for the club. So, again, the transfer fee important to protect the purchaser of the lifetime members for those early years, but it's not intended to be use it for 25 years, give it to a child who then uses it for 40 years. It's one lifetime ideally. Certainly that could happen in 13 years or 14 years but limiting it to 15, the 2016 version did not have a 15-year cap. We thought it was important to put that cap on to protect the club from a lifetime membership lasting 70 years or 60 years.
You said
Kim.
you could transfer one time to a member. Does the person have to be a member, or could it be a potential member?
It could be a potential member. They would have to first join the club as a full member, and then they could get the transfer.
That applies to any club member, regardless if they're living inside the gates or outside the gates.
Correct.
You got $100,000.
And then just straight math here on looking at a bank loan at an 8% rate over 20 years, P&I would be a little over $2 million. Estimated foregone revenue to the club from this about $1.9 million. If interest rates were at 3%, it would look quite different. But at this level, a lifetime membership compares very well to a bank loan. This is a quick chart to show break even. The assumptions here are how much will dues and the fees that we talked about that are foregone, card fees, those sorts of things. What's the percentage increase? We use 1.5, 3, and 6. Who knows what it's going to be, how long inflation's going to stay at sort of the rates we're at now. And then the other wild card, obviously, is rounds per month. And again, this is for a membership, not individual. So if a household plays 3 rounds a month, 6 rounds a month, 9 rounds a month, depending upon where you fall on the chart, the break even would be somewhere from 9 to 13 years. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are going to be out here on rounds per month. And when you get up to 12, 15, et cetera, that break even could drop into 8 and 7 years. Savings.
Can you just back up for just a second?
Sure.
So what this is showing us is that for an average member who only golfs less than once a week, they would make their money, their break even if inflation was only 1.5 at 13 years.
13 years.
So
yeah.
every year beyond 13 is free.
That's
Yep.
right. That's right.
And you're going to send this out, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And obviously, I put for illustration purposes only. Everybody should run their own numbers as everybody would. before making that kind of decision, but, yes, sir.
Might point out that that's rounds per month with a cart.
Per household.
Rounds per month with cart, that's right. It's for, if you're,
Paying per cart.
if
If you're
you're,
walking 10 rounds per month, it doesn't.
it doesn't affect, that's right. It really, it should say cart rounds per month. Thank you. Okay, and then the actual savings numbers. We have said some of that before that unintendedly might have been confusing because it said, what are the savings after you pay the 100? These are net of, assuming you paid 100, these are the net savings, okay? So this is after the 100,000. So this, just for simplicity's sake, suppose it's 6 cart rounds a month. So you're not spending 150 current dollars on carts per month. Let's use a 3% inflation number. In 15 years, you would have saved 158,000 less if you got it for 100. That'd be a net 58. In 25 years, 310,000 savings, net 100 or 210,000. So once you get beyond that, as Jen mentioned, even on the low end, kind of a 13-year break even. But when you start getting out into the 20 to 30 year, the numbers get extremely large from a savings standpoint. Obviously, sure hope it's not 6% inflation per year.
But we don't want a lifetime member for more than 25 years, right?
Well, I mean, it could be 30 years, 40 years, whatever. So I mean, if someone, they obviously don't need to transfer it. So if somebody buys it at age 45 and they're golfing at age 85 here,
But there's a cap at
that's
15
40.
years, right?
Pardon me?
No, 15 is just the transfer.
you just-
They cannot transfer it after 15 years.
Correct.
That's
But
right.
the individual could use it
Yeah, but if you. you
for
can't
30,
transfer
40,
it.
50 years. Well, again, the reason we wanted to cap that transfer was we just didn't want, a 25-year use handed off for a 30-year use to a child. So the club is on the line for 55 years of free. Seemed excessive.
Which will certainly probably end up happening. I think a lot of people will buy a lifetime membership, use it for 14 years, sell it for $180,000, and then just pay as you go until whenever. Or downgrade if you can't play 15 rounds of golf a month.
So we're trying to find the sweet spot here where it's still financially viable for the club, but yet provide great financial return to the member. And this is,
So I'll ask you a question real quick.
yeah.
So has the board obviously looked at lifetime members, 10-year members, whatever it was, 15 members, whatever it is. Did we look at like five like corporate members that'll give like $250,000 and they got like access to 2 or 3 guys to play the golf?
Short answer is no. But I know in the past we had corporate memberships. I don't know if anybody can fill in any blanks for me on that. But as of right now, we did not. But I know in the past we had a few corporate memberships.
With the club being familiar with the lifetime memberships, I mean, I think that they saw that, as they knew what it looked like, and also they knew that, like Dan said, it wasn't as attractive, even though it's a great deal for the member, not as great for the club, unless some are going to only have it for 20 years, some are going to have it for 25, some, like you said, will keep it for 14, give it to their kids, and they'll use it for another 25 or 30. But it's still a better option right now for what we want to accomplish in the next 3 years versus borrowing money from the bank.
And the reason I say that is, as a corporation, I can honestly tell you, I got 50 of them. We're good for 4 or 5 years, and we'll give up to $250,000 for 4 or 5 years for 2 or 3 executives to be a member there, and then it's done, right? So what we're looking for here, it's a money grab, right? We need money, right? And if we can handpick 4 or 5, you know, Bank of America or Sunbelt Rentals or somebody like that, and go, hey, 250 grand, you're a member here for 5 years. You got 2 people that can be members here, and they'll still pay the cart fees, the green fees, and all that stuff. And then they're only good for 5 years. We're not into the 25 years selling it and all that other stuff. Just a thought.
No, great thought. And this, I mean, it's certainly, as I said, this, we're talking the next 3 years, and you know, in Doug's example, we could be short of what, you know, we think would be available from OP. So it's really an and. It's not an or. It's definitely an and so thanks for that suggestion.
And then at the end of it, they give an option. I'll give you one right now. Bay Hill. We've been a member of Bay Hill 15 years. We go 5 years at a pop. We give them over 250 grand, and then we pay cart fees, green fees. We do everything a regular member does, and we have 4 guys. That's 4 guys assigned to that account. That and at Bay Hill, if anybody's played Bay Hill, you got to have a member with every group, right? So that's why I'm saying let's go with 2 or 3 members, but it's something to look at, and corporations will give that to you.
Right. Thank you.
Several years ago, when money was really tight for the club, they offered, we do have some members here who offered to personally lend the club money, which would be paid back over 3 years. That was not a bad deal for the members, it was a good deal for us. It was, you know, is that a possibility also?
Yeah, the question, if you couldn't hear, was around member loans, which we did back in the same time frame. And again, I'm gonna make that an and as far as additional ideas, additional opportunities. The challenge we find right now was, unless we could extend that to like a 10-year term, if we borrowed like $1.2 million over 3 years and needed to pay back, you know, 420, we probably needed to borrow a lot more than that to get to that. But certainly, especially I believe for specific projects, etc., the club has demonstrated before, members have demonstrated before a willingness to lend, and I think that's a great solution. You know, if we have a $300,000 project that we know a lot of people would be interested in. Let me go to Jerry.
And just out of curiosity, how do you define a transfer? Meaning, if you got a married couple, is that one membership?
That's one membership.
What if spouse dies?
If it's automatically transferred to the surviving spouse. I mean, it's not transferred, it's taken over by the surviving spouse.
Spouse remarries.
Then both get to use it, but if that second spouse dies, then it can't continue. So it's continued as long as they're a spouse, but the new spouse can't continue the membership.
Achieves membership, so to speak.
Right. Can't keep
Within
marrying younger people and
Could be transferred. He said could be still transferred within the 15 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And certainly a grown child, year 10, 12, whatever, could be transferred, could be gifted to them. The club would get the applicable transfer fee. Yes, sir.
Dan, what is the interest right now? Do you have a bunch of people begging for that? How many people are they going to bid on it? I mean, the email we got was, hey, it's a lot of interest in it, and they might be bidding on it.
Yeah. It's
There-
good.
Go, John.
Well, it's really kind of hard to speculate because, I mean, I've gotten a lot of questions and I've got a lot of people trying to give me money and make sure I get one. But I suspect there's going to be a lot of interest, and that's kind of why we ended up doing the buy it now option. A lot of people that were trying to, what should I bid? What should I bid? I'll So there is gonna be a lot of interest. I think what people are gonna have to sit and figure out is if they absolutely positively really would benefit from one, they're probably gonna do a buy it now. If they say, well, if I don't get one, it's no big deal, I'll bid 110 and take my chance.
So, can we go to the next slide, please? Back in 16, we offered just the lifetime memberships, and I had probably over 5 or more people come up to me, and they were on the more senior side of our club members. And they said, I love the idea, boy, I would have loved to have done that, but I just can't justify it at my age. Do you have any ideas? And I wasn't smart enough to come up with an idea at the time. John Schaefer, who is out of town, actually, as we talked through this on the board, said, hey, what about a 10-year membership? And I said, I don't get it. What is it? Explain what it is. And it's really a good alternative for somebody that looks and says, you know, I think I'm going to be at the club, whether for eventually moving or age or whatever, for 10 to 15 years. But I'm not sure much beyond that. It has all the benefits of a lifetime membership. It's $75,000 price tag. Has unlimited transfer capabilities for 10 years with no transfer fee. But the key point here is the term remains 10 years. So if somebody buys it year 5, they are moving or whatever, they can transfer to someone else who's basically buying a 5-year remaining membership at a discount. This is a more straightforward calculation on, because the one variable is removed of, am I going to use this for 30 years, 20 years, 40 years? This is 10 years. You can calculate how much you think you'll be paying to the club over the next 10 years. Again, same point on comparing favorably. A 10-year loan at 8%, we'd be paying $1,092,000 in P&I. Estimate is about $90,000 a year in lost revenue from the 10, so $900,000.
Any questions about the 10-year?
That is bidding as well. Someone could
That-
bid 85 or 90 for it.
Yes, thank you. That we don't have a buy it now because, again, you don't have that variability of, hey, I think I'm going to be using this for 40 years. I'm going to really bid a big number on a lifetime. This is fixed at 10. So yes, it is a min 75. Submit a bid. 5 highest bids win. The same sort of assumptions, break even, somewhere I think 7 to 8 kind of year range. And savings after taking out, assuming a $75,000 price tag.
Sorry.
There it is. Adding 3% if dues and fees are going up 3%, and you play 6, if you avoid 6 carts a month, basically going to save a net $22,000 over 10 years.
Jumping the gun now. You ready?
That's okay, yeah.
So that's what you're telling people when they spend 75 grand, they'll save 22 grand over 10 years?
That's right. If they
Only
will
costs-
average 6 carts a month for the household. That could be 3 for each. If there's 2 people playing in the household, that's 3 and 3. And if dues and fees will go up at 3% a year from this point on, which we don't know. It could be 1%, could be 4%, don't know. But I think people could look at their, what they average paying the club, remove the dues, remove the carts. That's what you're going to save.
Have you thought about selling cart memberships? People could use their own cart and pay a fee per year.
A trail fee is,
Trail fee, yeah.
but been discussed, but we hadn't. not
Just
something we
another
want to
option.
do right now.
Okay, thanks.
Hey,
Yes.
can I suggest that you develop a tool that everybody can use, a spreadsheet, basically? Most of the variables are easily described, whether it's food, you know, you're gonna say this, bake in the increases each year, and make the variable cart fees, which is really the driver. That way people can look at it and say, I got kids, I do, I don't, I'm gonna do X number of rounds, and see when the payback is.
Yeah, thanks. We actually have developed that, and we can make it available. The developer of it, who will remain nameless, wasn't me, wants to make sure there's no liability around the functioning of that. So I would test it to be sure. I trust the individual, it was done correctly. But to your point, it would help just, and the two variables could be keyed in are the inflation number and the carts. And then it quickly just calculates the savings. So if we can get that out to everybody, for anybody that wants to use it. So if we sold 10 of each, we'll be raising, and this is at 100,000. I think they'll definitely be going for more than that, but at 100,000, that would be $1 million. The estimated revenue loss from the dues and the carts foregone, and you see the net capital of about $1,220,000 versus the goal of $1,200,000, $1,300,000, $1,400,000, depending upon what that number is, getting us a fairly long way towards that shortfall. So, first, the board encouraged you to vote yes on the two new bylaws, allowing us to add 10 lifetime and 10 10-year. Results of the voting will be announced on Wednesday the 28th at 3 o'clock. If approved, we're initially only going to offer 5 of each. Reason for that, the main reason for that is we don't need the full $1,200,000 immediately. So we don't want to take in $1,200,000 and obviously 20 people stop paying dues, and some of the money wouldn't be spent till next year. So we're just going with 5 and 5 initially, but we also didn't want to have to come back and get approval again. So we want approval to sell up to 10, would start just with 5.
It's a 2-year period.
I'm sorry?
It's a 2-year thing. 5 and 5 this year, 5 and 5 next year.
With definitely 5 and 5 now.
If it passes.
If it passes, definitely 5 and 5 now. We'd have the option to do 5 and 5 next year. Need to
Or the
wait.
year
If
after.
somehow, if you have rates, I'm sure it's not the case within a year, but if bank rates are extremely low, that might be more attractive to us than selling the remaining 5 and 5. But we'd have the authorization, and I'd say it's decent. There's certainly a chance we would do 5 and 5 next year too, but no guarantee.
Can you go back to that other slide?
Sure.
Breakdown. So really, it's not 10 lifetime and 10 year, it's 5 and 5.
Over the next
if we
3
sold-
years.
Yeah, if we sold the 10 and 10, this is what we would raise.
I understand that, but it's a little misleading because if you only sell 5 and you only sell of each, that's half the revenue stream. So instead of 1.22, it's half of that. So six
Sure.
change, 610.
But it's just for the 2024 through 2026 period. So it's over the next 3 years, assuming that we would sell the other 5 next year or the year after.
I get that. My question is, if you just collected the 625,000,
Right.
how does that financially impact the club? Is that enough to get you over the hurdle, or not?
We can only do but so many capital projects at a time. So it's definitely going to get us through the next 12 to 18 months of capital projects.
Yeah, and so if we just sold the 5 and 5, and if we sell them at list price, that would be 500 and 375, 875. Now, the 260 and the 260 are over 3 years lost revenue. So just over 1 year would be a third of that. So we'd have a net 700,000. To John's point, we're not going to come to membership on new projects to be approved that would total more than 700,000 right out of the gate, and repair and replace wouldn't be that. So we would begin to spend some of that money, come in maybe with a kitchen project to get approved, etc. And then a year from now, or 9 months from now, whatever,
Or 10 years from now.
or 10 years from now, whenever well, it would certainly be less than 10 years from now.
But before we sell the other 5, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we would look at what are the other options around financing, because we now have these projects we need to finance. One option would be sell the remaining 5 and 5. Another might be a bank loan, et cetera.
Member loan?
If you sold the other 5 and 5, say next year, what's the price on those?
We'll decide, the board will decide at that time.
Yeah. So it could.
Well, it'll be the same process. I mean, their minimum in the bylaws is a minimum of $100,000. So I mean, the bidding would certainly, if they sold them next year or the year after, the bidding's going to start at 100 again. So it might go up.
Yeah,
to
one be below
160
100 for sure.
But in the point we're at right now, and that's the minimum right there, 1.22 million, right?
That's what.
If you had 20 people, they're gonna give you 1.22 million right now. Why wouldn't you take it right now? Why wait another year?
Only because we would lose their dues immediately, and we wouldn't be able to spend that money for probably a year, because we just couldn't handle 5 big projects at the same time.
That makes sense.
So we would,
That makes sense.
no, it's a great question, because it's tempting to say like,
It's that bird in the hand thing.
that's right, it's like, hey, let's go. The reality is, there is a cost to this of that dues loss. Jen?
I probably should have asked this question privately, but let's say there are 10 people who want to do the buy it now at 150.
Yeah.
Those extra 5 to invest that money and then take the interest towards operating, I mean, would that not be an option?
The board, the first 5 people will get one. First
What if-
5 buys it now. Now the board can make the decision. The other thing is that if we don't sell 5 of the 10 years, the board will have the option if we sell 10 10-year ones, and you could theoretically take the 3 of the other 5 buy it now.
So what we're voting on is 10 and 10.
Right.
Ultimately, the goal is to sell 5 and 5,
Right.
but the board will make the decision on, they may decide, you know what, we're just gonna do all 20, but the board will decide it. We are just deciding on if we agree that we wanna change the bylaws
So
to
you're
10
giving
and
the
10.
board authority to sell 10 and 10. Now, I'm sorry, yes.
I was asking, or would it make sense to index that minimum buy-in to inflation, so that in case you need to defer 5 years before you sell the next batch, you're not.
I think the supply and demand, I think, will dictate what they'll go for. But there's just a minimum of 100,000. I think if we sell them 5 years from now, trust me, they'll go for a lot more than 150.
What time is it?
Theoretically.
6:35.
Okay, go ahead, Tom, and then I'm gonna need, because we're gonna have the part 2 of the evening.
I know, and I'm waiting for that too. I think in 2016, I thought it was a fantastic idea to sell the lifetime membership. I was then too old already to cash into it. I think it's brilliant what you're doing here. One concern, I believe that if we have 40 lifetime membership, the board can be stacked with lifetime members who do not represent the general membership. I propose that there will be an amendment or a line that a minimum or a maximum of 2 board members at any time will be on the board.
That are lifetime.
You can put together a petition, Tom, you need 50 signatures.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
There you
Somebody
go.
do that.
There you go.
And it was a
Speaking of
club
which,
board
can you go to
member.
the next slide?
Yes.
Interesting.
Okay, so the board encourages you to vote yes on the 2 new bylaws. What about the third bylaw that's coming up?
I'm getting to that.
Talking about the expulsion clause.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. This has been great. In 2 weeks, we have the actual meeting, so I hate to cut off the questions, but we do have the second meeting, so let me just cover this real quickly.
I did not hear a response.
We're getting to it.
No, he means his response.
Yeah,
Tom's question.
Yeah.
Tom, put
Tom's
together a
question.
petition, gather a petition, you need 50 unique member signatures on there, membership signatures, not a couple, that counts as one, even though they're 2 signatures. Just put it together, pitch it, circulate it, get the signatures, talk to the secretary. You might have to make some modifications, and then it goes on for a vote.
There you go.
That would be the process too.
50.
Okay, bids submitted will open up on the June 28th at 6, end at midnight on the 12th. Increments of 1,000. Don't bid $100,000, $1.
The key is that the email will go out at 6 p.m. on the 28th with a link, and it's first come, first serve on the membership.
So you can bid right there online. I can hit it.
That's
Yeah.
the only way you can bid.
That's the only way.
Sorry, you ready?
Yeah, as John mentioned, the bidding form will be a buy it now option for the lifetime. There's not a buy it now for the 10-year. 10 years, 75 min, bid what you want.
If I give you $100,000 right now, will you do the thing?
No. No, sir.
The first 5 buy it now bids in chronological order will be awarded the membership. If we don't receive 5 buy it now, the next highest bids will be awarded the membership. Those members will be notified on Thursday, July 13th. We'll come back to this. No, I'm sorry, go forward to the, one more after that. Okay. Real quick, questions that had come up over the past week or two. Can a non-member of the club obtain a lifetime or 10-year membership? Answer is they first would need to join the club as a full member,
So no.
and then they could bid. So they can be a non-member right now. They just need to pay the full initiation fee, and then they could, and that would only come up if we don't sell them all in the bidding process.
Can't get on. You won't get an email if you're not a member.
That's right. Can members other than full members bid on a lifetime? Yes. Any member can submit a bid. If they secure one of the new membership types, they would need to pay the upgrade fee to full membership and then the amount bid for the lifetime or 10-year membership. So if somebody was sports, they were deciding to go to full, said, hey, I'm going to full, I might as well just do lifetime. They pay the difference and then the bid. Can I submit a bid manually? No, all bids must be submitted via the secure bidding link. What happens if someone submits a bid above $150,000? Does that beat a buy it now bid of $150,000? The answer is no, because we said buy it now means you are buying it now. If there are not 5 buy it nows, then they probably would be in line for the highest bid and get it. When will payment be due? That'd be due 21 days after notification.
Which is the 13th of July.
So 21 days after July 13th. And any disputes arising during the bidding process will be resolved solely at the discretion of the board. Not sure what those would be, but just want to be sure we know that. Now, Rich, to your point, question back, those are the 2 new bylaws that we want your approval on. Can you go back to the bylaw amendment? So what Rich was referring to is the process of how does a member get a bylaw amendment. Our bylaws, section 806, define a process by which a member can gather the required number of member signatures to bring an amendment to a member vote. I think 50 is the Number, as Rich said, that's not members, that's membership. So, like Tom's idea or any other idea, if somebody wants a bylaw change, amendment, 50 member signatures. We've had one of those come in, so this is not being submitted by the board. This is through a member who obtained the 50 membership signatures. The current bylaw, Article 3, Section 3.05, a member who was expelled for any reason other than financial excuse me, shall not be reelected to membership. The proposed amended bylaw that members will be voting to approve or not approve would change that to a member who was expelled, a member who was expelled for any reason other than financial shall not be reelected to membership. However, in extraordinary circumstances, upon petition to the board, in its sole discretion, an expelled member may be permitted to reapply for membership following the current membership requirements, fees, and processes. So that is, again, has come in from a member that got the required signatures and will be up for vote, requires, somebody helps me, 2/3?
2/3 of the vote.
2/3 of the vote to pass.
That's an extraordinary, that's what defines extraordinary. I'm just.
Yeah, can you explain why somebody would be expelled for other than a financial reason? Like the board expelled?
A fight.
No.
Inappropriate conduct.
Yeah, so essentially this allows a member who's been expelled to essentially reapply for membership other than if it was for financial, right? So it only gives them the opportunity to reapply. It can be negated, but it just gives them the opportunity to reapply.
Yeah, the board would still need to decision,
Yeah.
it's just like any other membership, but it allows for a reapply.
It is rumored that this actually was driven by a board member for a specific person.
It was not.
Absolutely not. It was done by Richard Karsh right here.
All right, so, but we all know the reason why. We all know the reason why. And is the board willing to take a position on this amendment?
No.
So, as an individual who's a member, I just have to say it smells fishy.
The board has no stance on
I
it.
understand that. But to the perception of many members, it is driven by one or a few individual people. And it doesn't look good.
The board has no choice but to go through this process.
I understand that because of the signatures. I completely get it. Again, perception by members makes this look really, really bad.
Other members think
hold
the
on.
perception of making the original decision was wrong.
Then I'll interject without getting up. So, I can tell you not one single board member, because I'm on the board, not one board member initiated this proposal. This was 100% done by the members, led by Richard Karsh, who he acknowledged, and a number of other folks that signed the petition. At no time did the board say, hey, yay, let's do this, let's push this forward, and let's back this. This still has to be voted on by the membership. The board has no say in that. It's a bylaw vote.
Is there any questions about the process or what this, any of
Yep, no
these
problem. Yep. Definitely not anybody on the
bylaws have
board.
to do with?
Thank you for the clarification.
Any-
Thank you, Richard.
Any questions on the lifetime?
No. I have a question on the amendment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm beating this to death, but I want to make sure I understand it, because if I'm voting on it, it's important. Who decides if they can, I understand that we're all gonna vote yes or no, this is a good amendment or not. Amendment aside, who then decides if whoever was told that they can't be a member anymore is allowed to be a member again? Is that membership, is that the board?
The
Who
board.
is that?
Membership
Board.
committee, all membership requests go through the membership committee and then are proposed to the board and then the board votes on it.
So you
Like
all
they
voted-
always do.
So you all voted if I could become a member?
Yes.
Okay. And then it goes up on the board still, and
Yep.
if somebody has a problem, then it's addressed.
Initially, anybody that applies, I mean, it goes up on the board and is posted for a while, and if somebody, had a problem,
Cut them, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear. It sounds like it's
Yeah.
no big deal.
No. Great, thank you for
Thank you,
a
guys.
very interactive discussion. And sorry we ran late here, Kim.
Thank you, Dan. He's got his own. Do you want to take 5 minutes to get your new dress? We have some setup time to deal with.
Thank you, Dan. Well done.
Sit down. Come to me about 3 o'clock. Let's give you a call.
So where you draw the line? You should have taken a break. Okay. I'll take a break.
I love the questions and the tenacity. How are you, sir? You're staying. I am staying. I'm just gonna walk around a little bit. I think our email was misunderstood by John when it came to the code, but we'll deal with that. I didn't see that. Yeah.
Hey,
Wake
bud.
up, John. Shit.
If you're ready. You need water or anything?
Hi, Jeff. I'm
Hi,
Jen.
how are you? Yes,
nice
good
to
to
meet
see
you
you.
again.
Good to see
Nice
you.
to
How
see you
are
again. You've been busy out here.
I have, yeah.
I can't wait to
exciting.
cut right around.
I forgot my.
I know. I was the only one that wore it.
I'm on the board as well, and I just had an opportunity to meet you. I'm just going to meet you tonight.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you meet everybody.
Sorry we ran a little late, but
no
we had a
worries.
lot of really good questions, a lot of interactive membership.
Yeah, that's good though.
It is.
I was surprised at the size. I thought it would be more people.
Well, at
seemed to be
first
very
it was very little. People trickled in. I think they're trickling in mostly
Yeah,
for you.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
The pressure's on.
No, well, this is our first re-entry into an architect because that was the members really said we need someone to help guide our way, right? I mean, and we listened, and here you are, and we're really proud of you because we think you're great. So, yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So you have the compass on? It's like some sort of compass there. Is that the... Wow, you already provided the show. That's awesome. I'm just like, is that that's
like,
the compass? Or,
I actually haven't seen that shirt. That's pretty awesome.
well, I haven't seen it either, so I was like, it's a really nice shirt. So.
Come meet Jeff for a minute.
Yep.
They gave me the good.
They got me the goods.
stuff.
A little swag on the
I
first
like
day.
it.
Yep.
Hey,
This is Doug.
Doug Rao. Doug Jeff Lawrence.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
So where are you based?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been down there your whole career? Or?
No, I've been there for 14 years. Before that, I was moved from Palm Beach up to Greenville.
So Florida.
Yeah. Okay. And then lived in Arizona for a while. Sorry, I'm a
Kansas
City.
Greenville's nice.
Great, yeah, great place to raise a family.
Yeah. How many kids you got?
3.
How old are they?
I've got 26, 23, and 21.
All right. I got a 25 and 27, so
Okay,
I'm in that same
I
arena.
still have one in college, so another year and a half, and I'll get a raise.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to seeing your presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, to see if we can take a stance, and both of them refused to help us.
All right, if everybody could take a seat, we'll get started here quickly. You need somebody to run your clicker.
No, I'll 6 moments.
Kim, do you want me to use the mic?
I think you probably should.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Let's get started. As we've gone through the past year, we've heard from membership loud and clear that we need to have a better plan about how we go about our business. And the one message we got was, let's hire an architect to help us with the challenges that we face. So what we've done over the past few months since the golf forum and the annual meeting is that we've interviewed a number of architects. We've had phone interviews with about 6 or 7. We brought 3 on site. Spent roughly 4 to 6 hours going through the course, what they could offer us. And for the initial part of what we're doing out here this week, which we are recontouring 18. We're installing the hydraulic system on 16, 17, and 18. We're doing a little bit of repair work on 13, and we're recontouring a portion of 5. Actually, the recontouring of 5 and 13 are complete, and by the time you leave here tonight, both of those projects will be finished. We'll be finished contouring 18 tomorrow. Hydrowick will be finished by Thursday, and we'll probably sprig 18 on Friday. So everything is going pretty good to plan. A little bit worried about the beginning of the week with all the weather we had, but we got off to a pretty good start. So after all that, after going through the interviews, on-site interviews, we have selected Jeff Lawrence to work with us on this initial project. And then also, like we said, we want to develop a master plan for the golf course. So by Jeff working with us this week, we have a pretty good feel for what he can do, but we wanted the membership to understand who Jeff is, and he can tell us a little bit about himself and what he's going to do for us moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about myself. I have a quick presentation, it'll probably take 10 minutes just to give you an overview of my design experience. I've been in the design business for over 35 years. Did it straight out of college. Have had some wonderful mentors through the process, starting my career with Jack Nicklaus, several years with Tom Fazio, 15 years with Gary Player, and I recently went out on my own about 3 years ago. So I will go through this slideshow real quick and just kind of give you an understanding of my design experience and how I go about new designs and renovations. So once again, over 35 years of design experience, I really take an active, hands-on approach to every project that I do, whether it's new construction or renovation. Obviously, a solid set of plans is great, a good budget, good schedule, but really being hands-on, being active in the process with members, with committees, is really where I think I differentiate myself from my competitors. Once again, it's that personalized service. I hope to build the relationship with the club to make it a long-term relationship. If I'm chosen to do the master plan, that is typically a longer process to develop it, to implement it. So it's really trying to build that relationship and gaining your trust. These projects, I have quite a bit of international experience working with Gary Player. The top one is a project I did in Bulgaria, ranked number 2 in the country. The middle picture is the cliffs at Mountain Park, which is in Travelers Rest, South Carolina, basically Greenville, ranked very high in the state. And this is Thrashing Cliffs, which is another project on the Black Sea in Bulgaria that hosted the 2013 Volvo World Match Play. Okay, technology.
Had the same problem.
Okay, we're not going to read this. This is kind of my bio. I'm happy to share this with anybody that wants to read it.
Send it to me.
You can
I'll post it
also
on the website.
it's on my web page as well, so I'm not going to bore you with that. These are some of the projects that I've been associated with that have won awards. Just to give you a little bit of background, some of them are international, some are domestic, some are new, some are renovations. But I think that gives you a kind of an overview of the quality of work that I have done over the 35 years of my design experience. So it's committed to quality, consistent quality. So all the way from projects in the Middle East to the cliffs of Mountain Park to renovation at Cougar Point on Kiowa Island. A couple other ones in there. Project I did in India. And
Jeff, I feel better already because you got great eyesight. I can't see shit.
I need a bigger TV. So this is just a few of the renovation projects that I have done and currently in the process of doing. Once again, it's a lot of domestic work. The scope of the work, it could be as small as a small T renovation all the way to a total renovation, blow up, start from scratch. Anything from, call it, 200,000 to 10 million. So the scope can be custom to any project. Currently, I just finished a project at Lake Hickory, a 27-hole bunker renovation. 2 projects that I have signed up and just got voted by the membership approved. One will start next year, and one will start in 2026. Just some media recognition over the years. Golf Digest, By Design, just a kind of a sampling of different publications that have noted my design experience and recognition as far as the products that I have delivered. So from a renovation standpoint, these are kind of some before and afters. This top picture up here is Cougar Point. We did a bunker renovation, redesigned a few greens, a grass conversion from Bermuda to Paspalum. So we took the opportunity to take some vegetation out, open up the vistas of the marsh. This is another one of Cougar Point. That is the Ace Club up in Philadelphia. And this is kind of some before and afters of construction to finished product. This particular one here is the Cliffs of Mountain Park. The next slide takes a while. I don't know why.
Longer project.
Might have to click the button.
Yeah.
There it is.
There we go. Whoop.
Do that.
So these are just some samples of master plans that I have done over the years. Basically hole by hole sketches that identify very specific design ideas, concepts, just so that the membership really understands exactly what I'm proposing to do. The upper is Pine Lake. Actually, Pine Lake is on the east side of Charlotte, so that got approved to go ahead in next year, 2024. We're doing a total green renovation, so we're blowing up every green complex, redesigning, regrassing, bunker renovation, tee renovation. So it's a pretty substantial project. So they hired me to do a master plan. The club decided the scope that they wanted to undertake. They funded it, and I did the next stage after master plan is detailed design based off what the club chooses to do. Then we bid it out and work through that process, and then finally have a construction date of 2024. Through that process, we'll do detailed design sketches, we'll do budget projections, we'll do schedules. So the membership, the committees, whomever is involved in the process, whether it's the club, an individual owner, it's very transparent, it's very open, it's very informative, because it's important for the membership to understand exactly what is entailed in the master plan and the detailed design. How much is it going to cost? How's it to be funded? What's the schedule, etc. And what's the phasing of the project? Some projects are phased. If they close 9 holes, sometimes they want to keep 9 holes open. The 2 projects I'm doing right now, they've made a commitment to close all 18 holes and get it done at once, which is probably, there's some heartburn on that, but it's the most economical and time-efficient way to do it. Once again, we get into more detailed design, provide all the technical specifications to make sure the quality control implementation by the contractor is done. Once again, it's more of a visual. My core values, once again, is working with the clubs and the committees, working with them, also keeping the membership involved in the process. So if I'm chosen to do the master plan, I set aside time to have roundtable discussions with groups of people, all level of golfers, just to discuss the pros and cons of the club, pros and cons of the golf course, the challenges that they see, what would they like to be done. And I also set time aside to play golf with groups of members as well, just to see how they play the golf course. For example, at Pine Lake, I think I played 3 different times, and they paired me with various levels of golfers, from the 9-holers to a super senior to a single digit. So it was really interesting to see how the golf course is played, so I can better understand, what you see and do every day. This is your club, it's not mine. I'm just trying to gather as much information as I possibly can through the process.
What's your handicap?
Be honest.
I don't believe my index. My index says it's 1.8. But I don't believe that. So. And once again, I've focused the last several years on sustainability in trying to get clubs to understand, to design and build and make revisions and improvements to the golf course to make it sustainable, because manpower is not going to get any better. Diesel fuel is not going to get any cheaper. So I'm trying to figure out how can we implement golf course design elements that really enhance the golf experience, but also it's a sustainable approach. So that is part of the process that I take. The upper picture, that's on the Persian Gulf, that's in Abu Dhabi. ranked number 2 in the UAE, or excuse me, in Abu Dhabi. Upper right picture is Montana. It's a stock farm, which who's the client? For Chuck Schwab. This is the Ace Club, and then once again, this is the natural poppies blooming in the spring in Bulgaria. It's pretty simple to me as how I approach it. I mean, it's really the experience that I have, the communication with the membership, with the committees. Just keep that interaction, keep that openness, keep that transparency, and provide as much information as you need to really make the right decision when it comes to a vote. Quality, communication. Once again, I will be actively involved if I'm chosen to do the master plan, and those processes after that, I will be actively involved in every step of the process. I don't hand it off to an associate. You'll get me. You'll probably be tired of seeing me, but I'm only an hour and a half away, so I think it's a good fit being regionally based, so that I can make the appropriate amount of visits, interact, and really be on top of all the phases. So let me talk a little bit about the master plan phasing. I did provide a proposal to the committee and outlined the scope of services. Basically, it's broken down into 3 phases. First phase is doing the master plan. Master plan will identify everything that I think needs to be done to the golf course to enhance the playable aspects, the strategy, the maintainability, the enjoyment for all golfers. So once the master plan is submitted, there also be some budget projections based off certain criteria, certain scopes of work. The club will make a decision on what they want to tackle, and then phase 2 will be detailed design. So detailed design is more detailed technical drawings, specifications. We'll actually do bid documents so that we can take it to contractors to bid. And then the third phase is implementation. So once a contractor's selected, the bid process is over, we select a date and timing, then you get into construction supervision. So once again, it's I believe in, I've learned from my mentors, there's no substitute for a personalized service. So I'm not going to send a set of plans and say figure it out. I'm going to walk you through it. It's open discussion. Every question I'll take. I may not agree with you, but we can certainly have an open discussion about it, and I'll certainly listen. So, any other things you want me to touch on?
Just maybe open up for some questions.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Lawrence, many of your beautiful photographs don't show dense fortification of the golf course. You're probably well aware of the fact that this course was built in the early 70s, over 50 years ago, in less than 100 acres, just under 100 acres. The problem we now suffer from is dense forestation. Tree canopy has grown over 50 years. Neither the homeowners association or the country club over the years, different superintendents and different general managers, has addressed the tree canopy issue. The trees that come down are generally ones that are dying, being infested with insects or whatever, and are removed. So this is something that you would have to bear in mind when you develop your
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we are definitely suffering from dense shade or many of them.
Shade and quality turf don't go hand in hand. So obviously you have residential on almost every side to the golf course, so you're somewhat limited of how much clearing you can do, but there is a substantial amount of clearing that you have to do in order to gain more sunlight, therefore gain better turf quality.
So, your master plan, I'll speak of, your master plan process kind of lays out, or almost infers, there might be significant changes you might recommend to a course. But I guess I'm curious, with what you've seen in this course, do you see a lot of significant changes you would be recommending, or is it more of a maintenance, thinking about tree canopies and stuff, that what's your general sense of that? Because significant changes versus a maintenance kind of master plan, does that make sense?
No, it does. Based off the limited time I've had on site so far, the backbone of the golf course is good. I mean, the routing, the green complexes are pretty good. I think, obviously tree clearing is one. I think the ingress, egress into some of the bunkers is challenging.
You're talking to Harold. You're talking to Harold. He lives in the bunker.
There's no inside here. This is my first, 6 days on site. This is just what I've, I think there's a lot of structural, underground soil profiles that haven't been attended to over the years that really, that's why some of your turf is struggling. And so that's not the sexy part of golf course architecture, because it's underground. It's but there's drainage, there's cart path, there's bunkers, there's greens construction. Just all a host of everything. But I dive deeper into it and go hole by hole and tee by tee and look at the scorecard. Do we need to add a tee, delete a tee, move a tee? So all that will be outlined, but it's comprehensive, and based off what I know, and I'm going to learn more, is there's there needs some more TLC needs to be put to the golf course. Once again, I don't foresee blowing up anything. I think some of your greens are really good. Structurally, I think they're challenged because of the soil profile. I think you lack some drainage. Cart paths are deteriorating. So those types of things where there's a great I think it's on my webpage. There's a sheet that the American Society of Golf Course Architects have done, and it gives an outline of the useful lifespan of every part of the golf course. So everything has a useful life. Bunkers, greens, cart paths, drainage, irrigation. So all the leading industry, so the USGA, the ASGCA, the Golf Course Builders Association, the Managers Association, they've all combined into this document that kind of gives clubs an idea of what is the useful life of X, your greens. So I think it'd be design related, strategy related, technically related, because I haven't dived into how the bunkers are constructed or anything yet, but I know your greens are we've taken some core samples. I'm really challenged as far as trying to keep consistent grass on these greens. So hollow what we're doing right now. So but
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't see any pictures of as we appear to be here, a forested golf course. And the people who live here really love their trees. And I'm just wondering how you're gonna deal with all the little old ladies, one speaking, who doesn't want their trees to be removed.
Right.
In order to maintain the golf course.
Well, there's we'll go around the golf course, and we have done that and will continue to do it, is to identify specific trees that are casting shadows on specific areas of the golf course, mainly tees and greens. Obviously there's some fairway areas. And there's actually a great app that you can use, Sunseeker app, that actually gives you the angle of the sun and how much shade.
Do you have experience in dealing with that, though?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it just looks like you've dealt with a lot of desert communities.
No, in my 35 years, I've seen everything.
Okay.
So,
including houses on every green in Fairway.
yes. Yes, ma'am.
One thing I'd like to point out, this week we are taking down, we got 19 trees approved. Half of those maybe are dead trees, the other half are trees that are shading certain greens. There is one particular green that we wanted to take 3 trees out. 2 were a homeowner's, 1 was ours. The homeowner did say no. They're looking to maybe sell their property and they didn't want to affect the look of their backyard. They're not golfers, so they're not members of the club, so they don't really understand the need. So, we're gonna take down the 1 tree and then we're gonna probably go back and try again.
Negotiate, yeah.
It's an ongoing process. So, you're gonna take down 15, 20 trees probably a year. That works in your budget. You identify the worst trees and you kind of just tackle it a little bit every year. Gotcha. So. Yes, sir.
Hi, Rich Harsher. I'm going to ask a tough question, I guess. So, no, thank you for being here. You had some great slides up there. Tremendous pedigree. I mean, you got a lot of history there. So how do you contend with, like, say, a disgruntled membership or a difficult board or maybe not necessarily competitive management in your history of projects? Have you had any failures or close to failures? And if you did, how did you contend with that?
Well, once again, it goes back to communication. This is your club, it's not my club. So, I'm going to put forth what I think is the best for the club based off the direction that I've been given by the club. This is what we want, this is where we are, this is where we want to be, and it's my job to try to get you there. So, I'm going to do everything I can, from providing visual documents, budgeting, schedules, to show how you can get from A to B. There are many times where I've sat in meetings, and the last one I've sat in was with a very angry 9-hole group, lady 9-hole group that felt like they weren't getting enough attention as far as what they wanted. So we went through it in a systematic way, and we came out with resolutions. So, I don't know, how many members do you have here?
780.
Okay, how many golfing members? Call it 400. Call it 400. You're not going to please everyone. It's impossible. So, what is the best for the club to set the tone to be successful for the next generation? So, whatever you do, whatever amount of money you're going to spend, where is that going to take you for the next 20, 30, 40 years? So, have I been questioned and have I been, yeah, for sure.
Any failures? I'm just curious.
Failures.
Did you ever have to walk away and just say enough?
No, it's never happened. There are times where I thought about it, but no. Once I'm in, I'm in. So I'm committed.
Yeah, just a real quick question. You were saying that this course you've seen, and overall, I think Doug had asked the question. Is it better? Okay. So, looking at a master plan, and I don't want to put you on the spot here tonight, but on average, after 6 days of being at the course, if that's correct, what's your average time span to complete your master plan? Are we taking, I know you had said, I think it was Pine Lakes is going to do a massive renovation, they're going to close the entire course, all that. It doesn't sound like we need that here, thankfully.
Right.
but are we looking at a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 2-year plan? And maybe that's a question also for the board on, you know, from a finance perspective as well. But on average, looking at this, are we, any ideas at all what you think it might be from a time standpoint?
To implement recommendations?
Yes.
Or for me to produce the plan?
Produce the plan.
For me to, a master plan typically takes 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
So that's by the time I have the roundtable discussions and play with members, do my due diligence, spend time out here, you know, try to understand what's underneath the ground. You know, there's a little bit of changing the guard now on the superintendent, so I'm just trying to gather as much as I can. But it typically takes about 3 or 4 months by the time I get all the documents put together and present it to the club. So once the master plan and all documents are completed, and a lot of times I will present that to the membership, and then just do Q&A from there, just to, you know, once again, be transparent, be open, be informative, so that you know exactly what I have been suggested and recommended. And then from there, it's up to the club to decide how they want to phase it, how they can fund it, etc.
That's it. Thank you.
There you go.
This is a little bit different angle, but one of the concerns through the years is when we make the changes, there's also comes with that certain types of maintenance skills and manpower to maintain the fine guidance we would get from having a master plan. So in your master plan, do you include like maintenance requirements for some of these new areas where we may not be doing them as well? Manpower generally recommended for these types of courses our size, what they should and should be emphasizing and doing, so that it goes a step further so that we can maintain what we paid for.
I work with the superintendent and try to get him, you know, we do mowing lines and we do how do you maintain the bunkers, how do I see the bunkers being maintained. Just did finish a project up in Lake Hickory, trying to work with the maintenance team on that to develop a style to maintain the bunkers. They're partially getting it, but do I get into the agronomics and the specifics of how to maintain the golf course? The answer is no. I mean, I think you need to leave that up to the people that do that for a living, as far as growing grass, maintaining grass. I could certainly guide them and direct them on mowing patterns and edging bunkers and delivering a visual product. But it's really up to the maintenance team to make a concerted schedule to deliver a consistent product day in and day out. And if they don't have that, then I can certainly provide information and provide names of consultants that can come in and help the club write themselves if needed.
Hey, Joe. So, two-part question. Number one, when you do your redesign of the golf course, and I think you said we had good bones here, which I agree with. Do you look at original design layouts that we might have somewhere? I'm just guessing that we have them somewhere. And then second part, on course design, do you, talking about the better players, with tee locations, green locations, and the like, this golf course was designed when wooden clubs and bottom balls were around, right? So for certain people, it's more of a pitch and putt, if you will, right? So do you look at things like that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we always look at is you know, the equipment and the ball, it's going further. I mean, it's just a fact. And always looking for that extra scorecard tee, because you want to be able to deliver a golf course that's going to be challenging for the single digit and also for the super senior or the 9-hole or whomever. That's the challenge for architects, is I mean, such a wide variety. But to answer your question is yes, we definitely look at, you know, a lot of the golf courses I'm looking at now are, you know, 6,700, 6,800 square foot. I mean, yards, and it's easy to find a back scorecard tee somewhere. In most cases, you're a bit landlocked here, but there are some places that I think we can add a tee here and there. And you said redesign. I don't see, based off what I've experienced so far, it's not a redesign to me. It's a renovation of what you have. So I'll dig into the history of the golf course, you know, who's touched it since, etc., and try to. I mean, the look and the feel looks really good. I mean, but I haven't studied. You know, where are the fairway bunkers? Are they at 180 to 220, where they catch the higher handicapper? Which you really, that's not who you need to challenge. On occasion you do, but so we study all that, and, but I don't see this being a redesign. I see it being a renovation.
What was the original design?
Bird. Willard Bird.
Get a lot of horses in the Carolinas.
Yes. Yep.
I would like to ask a question. In the past, for instance, on hole number 18, that entire area just before the lake,
The environmentally sensitive area?
Yes. I'm sorry.
has been totally ripped out and deleted. I happen to live on hole number 11. There used to be bushes there which said RHCC. They were ripped out. Nothing has been replanted there. Every rock with a plaque on it giving the average distance were ripped out and taken away. The beautification of this golf course has gone to hell. There's not one flower to be seen anywhere except here at the clubhouse. It's amazing, and it's sad.
And that is one reason why we have focus groups, to listen to things like that. So if there are opportunities that we can implement it back to what it was, or if that's the desire of the club, well, we can certainly look at those. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that, you know, I'll listen to. No, it's not. It's not. It's, you know, my focus would be, let's get the golf course right, and then we can add the bells and whistles onto that. So let's get the turf really healthy, let's get the strategy right, let's get the infrastructure right, and then we can start building on that. Any other questions? Okay.
Jeff,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate everybody coming. Any questions you have about anything, the first meeting, the lifetime memberships, anything, feel free to give me a call or an email. We will get as much information from the first meeting and the second meeting onto the
Where do you
site
live?
over the next couple of days.
Sorry, where do you live? Greenville. That's what I forgot. Yeah, we're in Greenville. In Greer. I'm a Furman grad.
Oh, are you?
My
Oh, yeah,
college
yeah.
roommate lives in Greenville now.
Oh, very good.
You working for Doug Howard on the pilot? Assistant pro?
Because the one I don't know Doug. I haven't met him yet.
He's a good guy.
Is he? Yeah. I think Brian's the pro there, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know Doug yet.
What you're doing now
is you're voting for the
Just a classy thing, what was that mentioned, the ones you mentioned?
Mountain Park.
Is that right outside of Greenville?
It is.
Is that by Cliffs and Glassy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you get off 25 and go right, you go to Glassy, you go left to Mountain Park. It's right there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Glassy's on the hill.
What happened? We look forward to your work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
One of the most sensitive things we have around here.
Yeah, I think so,
Around
huh?
hanging things in trees. So my question to you.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for coming.
For several years, I've tried to get a master plan, but every year, we don't have the money to do it. Even when I was president and set it aside, I said, this year we're gonna do it. You never did it. Result is you get this hodgepodge stuff and people doing stuff that doesn't turn out quite as well. And every year's a new year. You've got to have that continuity that goes forever and makes it right.
I mean, committees turn over, and you know, and it's really a focused roadmap that the club should take and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, whether it's a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, whatever it is,
Don't deviate without.
and we're going this way. So
And the architect.
Priorities do
Can we,
yeah, you're right. You're right.
can we successfully grow